Good day to everybody. It is Nuke out here in Las Vegas with the greatest news in the world. At least I like to think it's the greatest news in the world. And you know what could help me out with that greatest news in the world? If you could do me the quick favor, if that subscribe button just happens to be red, if you haven't considered subscribing yet, I would love for this to be the day that you would consider that. And of course, leave me a like for the YouTube algorithm. So let's go ahead and get on with this today. And what we're going to be talking about is the best trends of 2022 when it comes to real estate. It's because these things are going to help you in your journey, whether you're buying or selling. So let's go ahead and get on with it. First piece of news. It's according to who you are. If you're a seller, again, congratulations. If you're a buyer, more bad news. Home prices are expected to continue to rise this year. Fortunately, not as much as last year. So if everything continues as the trend predicts, real estate will still continue to rise, but at a slower pace. And we're looking at probably here in the Las Vegas area, about 10-12% compared to 25% last year. I have my own theories on why it's going to slow down, and it has to do with affordability. Many of these houses have gone out of the affordable range for most families. I know salaries are starting to go up and everything, and we got this $15 minimum wage and all this stuff that's rolling around. Guess what? It doesn't matter if a house costs $500,000 for something decent. It's just going to push more and more people away. So even if we had only 10%, the average price of a home is about 506. Let's call it 500,000. That means by the end of the year, the average home is going to be $550,000. That's going to mean about $200 more in monthly payments. That's if interest rates don't go up, and interest rates are looking to go up, which means it's probably going to be more like about $225, maybe $250 for some people. And that could put that home out of reach. The next one is the spring buying season, what we have every year. You know, that time when, even in the regular time, when most houses get 2 and 3 offers, and you saw how they would get 20 and 30 last year, expect that spring buying season to actually shift to earlier this year and for it to be even worse. So let's go ahead and see what's going to happen on that. And I say purchasing a home is better sooner than later for no other reason. Less competition. And when I say less competition, I really mean, 2 or 3 offers on a home instead of 20. And normally this time of year is really slow. It's not slow this year. It's actually been quite robust, and it's probably going to get more robust as the year goes by. So look for the spring selling season to come earlier and to be more fierce. Next, let's talk about the rise of the suburbs. Well, at one point, people started moving back into city centers to be closer to work, to entertainment, and everything else. Well, you know that virus that's happened over the last 2 years. Now, a lot of people are working from home, and I mean a lot, and they don't expect that to change. So more and more people are going to move further and further out. Now, this doesn't affect a market like here in Las Vegas, except for the fact that maybe someone can move to Pahrump. But as more people have the opportunity to move further away for lower cost housing and still maintain their jobs by working at home, that is going to have an effect on housing in 2022. And look for that housing that they look for to have office space for them. That is going to be a very big trend. So if you're in some markets where you're a suburb of a large city, expect even more traffic this year than you had last year. Now here's one you haven't thought about: zoning. A lot of locations, municipalities, states are starting to look at zoning restrictions that prevent new buildings. Now, we don't have too much of that here in Nevada, but some states like California, you know how hard it is to start a new building project. Well, there are bills out right now to ease that, because we have a housing shortage, and this not in my backyard nonsense is going to end. This is going to be the year that not in my backyard means shut up and sit down, because people are tired of not being able to build houses, not being able to build affordable houses, purely because somebody wants to have their peace and tranquility and hold it up in courts for years and years. This is going to be the watershed moment where we start to see that end. Now, this one doesn't affect Las Vegas and Nevada area as much, but a lot of people are starting to actually look at the impact of environment. And they're starting to not buy in areas that, I don't know, flood a lot, things like that. So that is starting to affect housing choices, and it's going to become more acute in 2022. And then, let's say people are going to start getting around their stupid governments, like, I forget which East Coast southern state, they actually made a law to say that environmental impact of ocean risings cannot be counted for future planning. So it's like, we'll just pretend ocean rising doesn't happen. But, you know, I don't think the ocean cares what they think. So some people are starting to think about that, and they're starting to worry about building too close to oceans, building too close to rivers, because they know it's not the smartest thing. Again, this doesn't affect Nevada. So if you've been thinking about moving to Las Vegas, we don't have earthquakes here, we don't have tornadoes, and we don't have flooding. And it's still Vegas. Next one, we may have a resurgence of foreign buyers and investors. So during the last 2 years, many of those investors have pulled back, and they're not investing in the United States like they used to. We expect 2022 and more people kind of like not caring what's going on with certain viruses that shall not be named. They're starting to bring their dollars back, or their yen, or their won, pounds, Canadian dollars, everything else back to the United States, and even here in Las Vegas. A lot of our investors are Canadian and Chinese. So look for that to happen and see how that spurs some things. Because remember what foreign investors did to a lot of Canadian cities. It's one of the things that drove up their prices so much. Let's see what that does, as 2022 is expected to be a watershed moment for the foreign investors as they start coming back into the U.S. market. We don't know how it's going to impact things so far, but I do know this: more investors coming into the market with fewer houses means higher prices. And let's not forget about millennials. That's the next one. Almost 5 million millennials will enter their 30s this year. In other words, prime home buying time. And furthermore, almost 9.5 million will be hitting either 28 or 29. That is a huge wave, and expect a lot of first-time buyers. So you're going to be looking at a lot of condos, townhomes, starter homes are going to be taken up by these buyers, and it could force some families to make some difficult decisions, especially if they haven't moved in on purchasing a home right now, especially with rising interest rates. There's going to be a lot of competition at those price ranges. So that's going to depend where you're at in the country, but here in Las Vegas, for a single family home, we're looking at $300,000 to $350,000. Expect intense competition, and that's really the range where you see those 20 and 30 offers, because they want to get into those starter homes. So look for that as a trend for 2022. And finally, forbearance. Those who took that chance to not pay your mortgage for a while, well, that actually kind of worked out better than anyone could have thought. And we're not going to have the great foreclosure wave coming that some thought was going to happen. At the height, 4.8 million people were in forbearance. Now we're down to only about 900,000. More of them are starting to pay off their debts that they incurred while under forbearance. So it's going to be a much smaller foreclosure cycle than many people thought there would be. And even with the foreclosure cycle that many people had predicted, there were already hedge funds and everything else ready to absorb that inventory. So right now, any foreclosures that happen from forbearance will have a very minor effect, because if we're 5.5 million houses short, even if every last one of those 900,000 threw up their hands tomorrow and said, okay, I'm done. I'm going to let the bank take it back. Guess what? Just taking us from 5.5 million shortage to 4.5. Have you really made that much of a dent? It'll help, but it won't help as much as some people think. On top of that, the majority of people who are in forbearance have positive equity. Would you let a bank take away your home and then take all the profit? No, they're going to put it on the market, which is a good thing. So there won't be a foreclosure wave coming. You may have a wave of people who said, okay, I can't catch this up, but they're going to just put their house on the market, so it's going to be market price. Only thing you're going to have is relief from everything else. So that is what I have seen so far that is happening for 2022 that's coming up that will affect you as a buyer or a seller and possibly an investor. And again, if you see that red button for subscribe, that means you haven't subscribed yet. And if you could do me the most sincere favor in the world, if you believe that I have provided you with a bit of extra knowledge and something that's useful to you, please hit that subscribe button and hit the like button and watch another video, because I have so much information that I've put out and that I plan to put out for the rest of 2022.